About 2 years ago, I told myself I would get every Resident Evil Platinum. 2 years later, and I only have Resident Evil 3. I started going for the Resident Evil 2 Platinum, I played through Leon A and Claire A, but life got in the way and I never finished it. So, today I'm going to be getting the Resident Evil 2 Platinum. I only have 16 trophies left in the game, including the Platinum. I have to witness a true ending, aka finish a B scenario, kill 3 enemies at once with a sub-weapon, escape the bedroom within 60 seconds during Sherry's segment, read all the files, destroy all Mr. Raccoons, complete Leon's story on standard or hardcore with an S rank, and same for Claire, complete Leon's story on hardcore, complete Claire's story on hardcore, complete the game without using a recovery item, clear the game without opening the item box, taking 14,000 steps or fewer in one playthrough, and completing the 4th Survivor Extra mode. The plan is simple. I'm going to be doing 6 different playthroughs. For the first one, I'll do the Claire B scenario unassisted, getting the last 2 collectibles and not healing. Here, I'll also get the trophy for clearing Sherry's segment in less than 60 seconds and a few other miscellaneous trophies. Then, for the second one, I'll do Leon's B scenario unassisted again, getting the last collectibles and not using the item box. By this point, I should have all the Mr. Raccoons and collectibles. If not, I'll have to do a quick cleanup in order to get the infinite combat knife. Once I'm done with these, I'll play Leon and Claire on standard, getting the S rank for both. Hopefully, I'll also get the trophy for taking less than 14,000 steps in a single playthrough. Once this is done, I'll have the infinite samurai edge pistol ammo and do the last 2 playthroughs, which are for beating the game in hardcore with both Claire and Leon. Now, the only small issue I have with the collectibles, more so the Mr. Raccoons, is that I don't know which ones I'm missing. The good thing with the records though is that it tells you which ones you have, but I don't think there's a function for that for the Mr. Raccoons. So I'm just gonna finish Claire B and Leon B and hope that I get all the Mr. Raccoons that way. If not, I'll have to go back and think through which Mr. Raccoons I could be missing. So for my first run, I played Claire B scenario. Again, for this run, I'm hoping to get 3 trophies. Witnessing the true ending or just finishing a B scenario, no healing, and clearing Sherry's segment in less than 60 seconds. It has been a while since I played my first playthroughs, so I thought this first run was going to take me about 6 hours, but it took me only 4, which I count as a win. Since I was playing on assisted difficulty, not healing was super simple and I didn't have trouble with that at all. For some reason, Sherry's segment did take me like 10 minutes to get done. I thought I was doing the segment in under a minute, but apparently I wasn't. It took me like 7 tries to actually get it done, but it wasn't complicated at all. I forgot how much I love this game. It is truly one of my favorite games ever made. The entire free roam part and the inventory system make this game super fun. Now again, I was playing in assisted for this first one, so there was ammo everywhere and I didn't have to watch out for my resources, but I know that this is a huge thing later on. In fact, the first time I played this game, I couldn't even finish it and had to restart the game because I used all my bullets as Claire. So for my standard and hardcore runs, I was going to have to be a little more careful with that. The only real complaint I have is how annoying Mr. X gets after a while. At first he's just scary, but then he low-key just gets in the way of things. The story is also pretty decent and it was nice to see the true ending since this was my first time ever playing any of the B scenarios. For those of you unfamiliar with Resident Evil 2, there are 4 scenarios, 2 for each character. The A scenarios finish in a sort of cliffhanger, while the B scenarios show you what actually happened at the end. Other than that, they are super similar to each other, except I think the B ones are a bit shorter since you have 3 hours to complete the S rank, while for the A scenarios you have 3 hours and 30 minutes. Anyways, not a lot to say about this run, it was pretty quick and I did not have a single issue. Now that this first run is done and we're off to a great start, it is time to move on to Leon's B scenario. In this run, I am hoping to get the trophy for collecting all the records and not using the safe. For some reason, this was way harder than the Claire playthrough and I died many more times, even though I could still heal. I think this was because of having to limit my resources a lot, but at the same time I also think I just thrive more in Claire's scenario. There were even points that I had no ammo, and for a while I was poisoned for like 10 minutes, but because I was playing on assisted, I didn't die. Sometimes I had to get rid of my ammo or of things that I would have used because I didn't have space to carry specific items that were needed for the story. I also grabbed most of the weapons, which was my mistake, because there was a point where I had like 4 weapons and I even grabbed the components and overextended them so they were taking 2 slots instead of 1, and I didn't even have bullets for them, so they were just there and I couldn't get rid of them. So if you're gonna do this no safe run with Leon, I would recommend looking at what weapons you should grab and which ones you shouldn't, because it would totally save you a lot of time and a lot of resources. It was overall not a fun experience, and I'm glad I never have to do a no safe run again for this Resident Evil Evil at least. I only had 2 records left, so I didn't have to worry too much about that. However, I made a small mistake that will hopefully not cost me too much time later. I have only one Mr. Raccoon left and I forgot to search for it. The thing is, since I started this platinum 2 years ago, I really don't remember which ones I already have, but that's a problem for later. While it was hard, it was far from the hardest challenge I would have to face. With this Leon run done and 2 new trophies unlocked, it was time to decide what the next step was. I could either get the Mr. Raccoon or try to get an S rank on standard with Claire. Now the Mr. Raccoon would give me an infinite knife, which could be useful, but trying to get it now could also add a lot of time since I don't have an insane amount of save files. I also think I could easily bid the Claire B scenario on S rank without the use of the knife and with a lot of time to spare. However, I ended up deciding to do the Mr. Raccoons first because I didn't want to waste time, however little, on my S rank runs or have to worry about it on my hardcore runs. It turns out I was missing the Mr. Raccoon that Ada gets after escaping Mr. X. Took me only around 30 minutes to find out it was this one, and I did have a save file really close to it, thankfully. Now with that out of the way, it was time to move on to my next playthrough. Claire, Scenario B, Standard S rank. Okay, so I lied. I just said that I was gonna do Scenario B, but I changed my mind. You see, after a little bit of googling, I came to the conclusion that that is actually the hardest scenario since Mr. X spawns way earlier. So I decided to do Claire's A scenario instead. This was surprisingly easy. I watched a tutorial, if we want to call it that. It was mostly just a playthrough of this guy called Xtria, getting the S rank on hardcore and explaining why he was doing what he was doing and how to basically maximize your time. He told me exactly where to go and when to do it, and the best way to defeat all of the bosses. It was still a bit of a challenge, but it only took me 2 hours to finish this playthrough, and I needed 3 hours and 30 minutes for the S rank on standard. Super happy I watched that video, definitely recommend him if you are stuck trying to get an S rank here. He explains everything perfectly, and he's also a funny guy. Really enjoyed his video. Anyways, since I knew exactly what to do, this was not much of a challenge. It was even easier than completing my assisted playthrough, but that was because I could not heal and was a bit lost most of the time. But with that, I got the trophy for getting an S rank with Claire on standard or hardcore. I also ended up getting the trophy for taking less than 14,000 steps since I was only going to places when needed and didn't really roam around too much. Now that that was done, I had the infinite pistol and the infinite knife, which I literally didn't use, so it was pretty much pointless. But I have a feeling that this pistol is gonna be a little more useful, especially for the hardcore playthroughs I have to do. I hopped into Leon's playthrough to get the S rank trophy in standard. While I was playing this and dying so many times for many stupid reasons, I kept thinking of how horrible it was gonna be to get through the hardcore playthroughs. I was playing on standard and was still dying super often. Again, I followed the playthrough of Xtria playing through this and managed to finish the story in 2 hours, with a lot of deaths, but nevertheless, a lot of time to spare. I also ran out of shotgun ammo here. The infinite pistol was really doing its work, making my life so much easier, and I had a feeling it would make my life even easier for the hardcore playthroughs. With this playthrough done, there were only 3 trophies left, excluding the platinum. Finishing the game in hardcore with both characters and the 4th survivor game mode. I actually tried that game mode previously but had a horrible time during it and died really close to the end. But I wasn't too worried because I had other things to worry about, like these hardcore playthroughs. The only other Resident Evil I've platinum has been Resident Evil 3 Remake, and I literally bought the DLC because I could not finish the Nemesis fight in Inferno mode, so I'm really hoping this won't take forever. I decided to start with the Leon playthrough here. I didn't have to get an S rank in this, so I decided to save as often as I could while still being able to save between any RNG scenarios and the boss fights since I was already having trouble with those. Since it took me 2 hours to finish the game on standard, I estimated it would take me at most 3 hours. I used the tips that I got from watching the video and tried to emulate the run as best as I could. I also tried to collect as many ribbons as possible because I wasn't gonna go for the S rank, so I could save more than 3 times. The boss fights were harder for me since he was using the exploit with the knife that you could do if you were playing on like 120 FPS, so again I knew I needed to save before them because I had died against every Birkin stage. I estimated that I was going to be able to save around 10 times before the lab, and if I took 3 hours to get there, I would be able to save every 20 minutes. So with that plan in mind, I started playing. I had to restart the game like 3 times because I kept dying over stupid reasons, but we made it to the dark room and I decided to save 11 minutes into the game. A bit of an early save, but I needed it for myself so that I didn't have to replay that intro ever again. However, I don't know if this was a horrible decision, but then again, I have a lot of ribbons that I can use. I got all of the medallions without dying and made it to the secret room about 30 minutes into the game. It took me this long because I was making sure I killed as many zombies as I could before they got up, and since I had the infinite ammo pistol, so I was using that, which, as you can imagine, took a bit of time. But once in the secret room, I decided to save again. 2 saves in, only 30 minutes into the game, but I had 4 ribbons in my inventory and it was time for the first boss fight. I died like 5 times here, so I'm really glad I saved right before it. But I ended up killing him and breezing through the next part. I saved again at 53 minutes right before spawning Mr. X in. I had extra ribbons now and I was starting to feel more confident with every save I did. I actually ended up finishing the game in 2 hours and 12 minutes, getting an S rank. I could have gotten the other S rank trophy first on here as well and saved myself 2 full playthroughs, but I think the only reason I was able to do this so fast was because of those other playthroughs. I only saved like 12 times and didn't die in the last Birkin stage or in the Mr. X stage. I did die once in the second Birkin stage, but I had a save file pretty close, so it didn't cost me that much time. One time my TV randomly turned off, so I died to the plant monsters, but thankfully I had a save not too far off. Honestly, I couldn't have done this without watching the video playthrough I was talking about. I learned so much about the bosses and how to beat different segments in the game. For example, I had no idea that the lickers can't see and that you can just walk past them, but it was significantly easier than I thought it would be, and with little struggle I got the trophy. But we're not done yet. Now that I finished my first hardcore run, it was time to get to Claire's hardcore run. This should be a lot easier since I just finished a hardcore run, and as I play more playthroughs, I start becoming more confident and better and remembering things better and what to do. I also unlocked a new infinite weapon, so I think that will be a lot of help for this playthrough as well. And again, I think Claire's scenario is a little bit easier than Leon's, so hopefully that stays true. So Claire's hardcore run was a lot easier because of that infinite weapon, like I just said before. It was sort of like a submachine gun and it genuinely made it so much easier. It was by no means overpowered, but still, like I said, it made everything easier. I learned a lot from my Leon playthrough, so this one was way easier. It took me around the same time to finish and I didn't really have any issues. I barely died at this run. So with that, I got the Claire trophy. And there was only 1 trophy left to get in order to get the platinum. Finally, I am going to do the no way out scenario. I watched a no damage guide because after 3 attempts, I literally had no idea how to do it. There was not enough ammo or heals and I was having a pretty hard time. After watching the video though, I knew exactly what enemies I could just run past and how to make my experience way easier. With this last challenge, I got the Forged Survivor trophy and with that, the platinum trophy. This was the second Resident Evil game I've platinumed and I had a lot of fun with it. Now it's time to take a break from the third-person Resident Evils and move on to Ethan Winter's story as I play Resident Evil Biohazard for the first time.